And we're kicking off with Raw, which itself kicked off with the World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins, but his segment was quickly interrupted by the Judgement Day's Damian Priest and Finn Balor. After mocking the pair for coming without Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, Rollins then played some mind games, even bringing up Finn Balor's Universal title reign that ended in one day thanks to an injury during a match with Seth. Seth also insinuated that Priest wouldn't be able to dethrone him later in the night without the Judgment Day. Priest took the bait, claiming that he didn't need the faction to help him beat Rollins, earning a look from Balor that is usually seen on WWE TV right before a faction or a tag team splits. The tease of a potential split of Raw's top heel faction did not go unnoticed by fans, with many on social media and many predicted that the group is not long for this world. From our perspective, it seems far too early to even tease a breakup, and hopefully WWE's classic dropping of storylines will prove beneficial this time, and the idea of a split isn't dwelled upon. With Dominik and Rhea proving to be hits in their own right, it's often easy to overlook Priest and Balor, and it seems a rivalry could be brewing between the two. While Balor was taken aback by Priest's declaration that he didn't need the Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley was far more encouraging, tweeting that the Archer of Infamy is right and adding that he's that good. After all this setup, it's great that the match delivered, and Priest getting mad at Balor for showing up at the end certainly teases some tension within the Judgment Day. Rollins was able to kick out of everything Priest threw his way before hitting the stomp to get the decisive win, and while nobody expected a title change, it was great to once again have a lengthy world title match in the main event of Raw. After the match, Finn Balor went into the ring for a stare-down with Rollins, who after the stare-down left and held up the world title in the aisle as his music played. There's a clear tease that Rollins and Balor will face off for the title at Money in the Bank in England, and we predict there will be no shortage of Irish fans who have made the trip to the show. The fans in London will be buzzing to see Balor get a world title match, something that has often eluded him, and especially against Rollins, as the pair have fantastic chemistry and have a history of great matches. Money in the Bank could offer Rollins and Balor their highest profile match, even more so than their SummerSlam 2016 collision, and with the tease of the Judgment Day's breakup, Damian Priest could have a major role to play in London. Perhaps Priest refusing to help Balor cheat will be what costs Finn the match in the end, and it'll be interesting to see whether the Archer of Infamy turns babyface soon. Both Rollins and Finn can expect a thunderous response in the O2 Arena on July 1st, and while a victory is unlikely, this match could lead on to a major storyline with the rest of the Judgment Day. Rollins and Priest gave an excellent main event match for the World Heavyweight Championship, but there was a very special moment after Raw went off the air. After Raw wrapped up filming, Finn Balor and Damian Priest retreated up the ramp, and Rollins then told them to get back to the ring and offered a handshake. Priest did take Seth up on the offer and shook the champ's hand in a heartwarming moment of respect between the two. This character-breaking moment was certainly interesting to see, and plays into the possible face turn coming his way. And what do you think of what transpired in Hartford after the cameras stopped rolling? More from Raw now, as this week's episode emanated from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut, just 75 minutes by road from WWE's official headquarters. With the show so close to WWE HQ, it shouldn't surprise you to learn that WWE's most important executive was backstage, and yes, we're talking about Vincent Kennedy McMahon. PW Insider reports that McMahon made his presence felt backstage at the show over 2 months after his most recent Raw visit during the post-WrestleMania 39 episode. That episode was slammed as one of the least memorable post-WrestleMania episodes of Raw in history, with McMahon said to have made multiple last-minute changes on the April show. Because of the chaos that his presence backstage caused, McMahon has reportedly opted to work remotely and make the changes from home, and Dave Meltzer and Fightful Select also confirmed that Vince was backstage this week. According to sources, McMahon was said to be very angry with the post-show handshake between Rollins and Priest after Raw went off the air. While Triple H is technically in charge of WWE's creative team, McMahon has the ability to overrule any of his decisions, and we can only imagine what the atmosphere was like backstage at Raw. Raw also saw Gunther face off against Kevin Owens on this week's show, and with those two involved, it's no surprise that this was a hard-hitting affair. The Intercontinental Champion was accompanied by Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, while Owens had Sami Zayn in his corner in the latest escalation in this feud. Both men held nothing back in the match, with Gunther even attempting a frog splash that Owens countered, and it was KO who mastered the top rope, hitting a swanton bomb on the Austrian. Ultimately, it would be the outside players who made the difference, as Kaiser and Vinci would get into a fight with Zayn, and Owens would join the fracas to even the odds. After Owens hit Kaiser with a stunner, Gunther capitalized by rolling up the prize fighter, giving Gunther a huge win over the former Universal Champion. This Saturday will mark 1 year of Gunther's reign as Intercontinental Champion, and with this win, it seems the future remains very bright for Imperium. What did you think of this match, and where do you expect the feud to go from here? Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. The cameras focused on Matt Riddle backstage after the Imperium leader defeated Kevin Owens on Raw. While Kathy Kelly briefly interviewed him, he was interrupted by the remaining 2 members of Imperium, and Riddle ended up taking out the pound-for-pound strongest man in WWE. For those curious, Giovanni Vinci of Imperium was bestowed the title of WWE's pound-for-pound strongest man in late 2022, a few months after Claudio Castagnoli, formerly known as Cesaro, departed from the company. When Ludwig Kaiser confronted Matt Riddle regarding his comments about Gunther, Riddle firmly instructed him not to lay a hand on him. Predictably, Kaiser disregarded the warning and forcefully shoved Riddle. In response, the King of Bros effortlessly incapacitated both Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, even applying an ankle lock on the latter. Security personnel and other officials were compelled to intervene, though the damage had already been done. Regardless, Imperium had an eventful night on Raw, surpassing everyone else in terms of activity. Following their victory over the Alpha Academy last week, they once again confronted the undisputed tag team champions Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Judging by the circumstances, it appears that Kaiser and Vinci may be next in line for an opportunity at the tag team titles. Can they pull off an unexpected upset? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Now, it was on last Friday's SmackDown that Roman Reigns celebrated 1,000 days as Universal Champion, but the segment also saw more tensions within the Bloodline. After Jimmy Uso superkicked his cousin twice at Night of Champions, Reigns had Jimmy laid out by Solo Sikoa, leaving Jey Uso incredibly conflicted in the ring. On this week's Raw, Paul Heyman made an appearance and declared that Jey Uso has until this Friday to decide where his loyalties lie. Heyman went one step further, predicting that Jey will join his brother Solo Sikoa in acknowledging Roman Reigns, or else. It was during last week's SmackDown that Reigns gave a similar prediction, vowing that Jey Uso will fall in line just as he always does. This time last year, the Bloodline was as united as a faction could possibly be, but that isn't the case. And what decision do you think Jey Uso will make on this Friday's SmackDown on Fox? More from Raw as The Miz hosted the latest installment of Miz TV on the show, and the crowd in Hartford were beyond thrilled to see Cody Rhodes as the A-lister's guest. Fans sang along to Cody's theme song as the American Nightmare made his way to the ring, cast on his left arm and all, but that injury didn't stop the excitement of the fans. In a nod to Cody's first run in WWE, Miz said that he looked dashing, referencing Cody's time as the vain, dashing Cody Rhodes that he played some 13 years ago. It wasn't all just compliments from The Miz though, as while he said that Rhodes looked dashing, he also criticized Cody for challenging Brock Lesnar to a fight. Rhodes responded that it took balls to do what he did, something that Miz, or Mike as he called him, knows a little bit about, and Cody added that The Miz is on something of a wrestling hiatus right now. Not to be outdone, Miz revealed his second guest for Miz TV, which was Dominik Mysterio, much to the perplexion of Cody and us, as Dom Dom has hardly been part of Cody's return to WWE. Nevertheless, Mysterio emerged with SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, clad in a Damian Priest t-shirt, and once again, Mysterio's mere presence on the show infuriated the WWE Universe. As fans chanted "You suck," Ripley said that Dominik had something to say, though that hardly stopped the fans from booing loudly. When Dominik did get the chance to speak, he reflected on Cody's comments from last week, saying that Rhodes spoke like he was a big dog in the yard, but to the ex-con, he's just a little birdie with a broken wing. Dominik also couldn't help himself as he also claimed that Rhodes is a bad father, saying he should be at home with his daughter, though stopped short of leveling The Miz with the same criticism. Cody says he knows the 15 minutes that Dominik spent in prison were hard times, and in a very fun, self-referential line, said that Mysterio has a worse prison tattoo than he does, poking fun at his infamous neck ink. Going further, Cody said that Rey Mysterio's victory over Dominik at WrestleMania was an overdue spanking, and said that Rey has made some mistakes in the past, Dominik being one of them. The hardened criminal, or so he claims, suckered Cody with a punch and then hid behind Ripley, and it was quickly after that that the two Judgement Day members bailed to the outside. After Dominik and Ripley were on the floor, Miz was laughing about it to Cody, so Cody hit Miz in the head with his cast, and the two-time WWE Grand Slam champion took a great bump for it. Rhodes vs. Lesnar 3 won't be happening at Money in the Bank, and it seems we'll be getting Rhodes vs. Mysterio instead, in a feud that is certainly interesting to say the least. The pair have had very little history, but Dominik is a guy that Cody can beat, and it's not going to hurt Dominik that much. With the solid lines we heard this week, expect more entertaining segments to play out as we draw closer to a match between Cody and Mysterio on July 1st in London. Raw also featured Ricochet taking on Shinsuke Nakamura in a match between two of the men who will compete in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Before the match got underway though, the pair had a backstage segment, but the timing of this segment has raised some eyebrows. As many fans pointed out on social media, the segment with Ricochet began immediately after Katana Chance lost on Raw, and this is interesting as the two used to date. Chance, alongside Kaden Carter, came up short against Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, and it's worth mentioning that Ricochet is now engaged to WWE Raw ring announcer Samantha Irvin. As for the match itself, Ricochet got some quick offense before Nakamura was sent outside, and the King of Strong Style was able to level Ricochet with an emphatic German suplex. Just as the match was getting into high gear, Bronson Reed came in and derailed the proceedings, resulting in the match being ruled a no contest. Reed is not yet qualified for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, but after what we saw this week, it's clear that a trip to London is exactly what the Australian superstar is planning. There weren't any men's qualifying matches on Raw, but Becky Lynch has punched her ticket for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Lynch faced Sonya Deville in her qualifying match, and despite the attempted interference of Chelsea Green, the man was able to get the win with the manhandle slam. Outside the ring, Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark watched on, and Stark would go on to qualify for the ladder match in her match later during Raw, and expect the pair to come to blows in London, if not sooner. Back to AEW. Now, CM Punk wasn't initially part of the announcement for AEW's Collision event during the Warner Bros. Discovery upfronts. However, that changed, and now the Second City Savior is set to make his return to AEW, with potential opponents already lined up for him. According to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, there's an interesting possibility being discussed for CM Punk's future in AEW. It seems there's talk of a singles feud between Punk and Jay White. Jay White joined AEW after his New Japan contract expired, and while there were rumors of WWE's interest, White ultimately chose to sign with Tony Khan's company. Now he might be heading towards a high-stakes feud in the near future. Prior to Jay White coming into the picture, CM Punk was to revive an old feud with Samoa Joe and Chris Jericho too. Only time will tell who ends up being Punk's first opponent. What are your thoughts? Who do you want to see as Punk's opponent? Sound off in the comments below. And we're ending today with Bryan Danielson, who made his AEW debut in 2021, but his role with the promotion isn't just limited to on-screen. Recently, Bryan has taken on a role in AEW's creative team, a role he has experience with during his tenure in WWE, and fans have already seen his ideas in practice. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was explained that the latest AEW Rampage exemplified his new role, as the concept of Championship Night, which was the direct result of Danielson's efforts with Tony Khan. The show saw a total of 4 titles defended, all non-AEW gold, with the AAA Mega title, ROH Pure Championship, the New Japan Strong Women's title, and the New Japan TV title all up for grabs. Both in WWE and AEW, Danielson has been praised for his willingness to work with the creative team, and the American Dragon is said to be very accommodating to other ideas. With Danielson saying that he expects 2023 to be his final year as a full-time wrestler, he could soon be working a lot more backstage, bringing his decades of expertise to AEW's creative team.